100%. Welcome to another episode of Read the Room, brother. How are you? You doing all right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing good in the excessively hot part of northern Arizona, but it took a little bit of time to cool down after the initial emotions of yesterday. Because for those of you in the audience who have been living under a rock or on Mars for the past, I don't know, 3.5 years plus, we have been talking about this sort of language that would lead to something, and something finally happened.
Yep. Or the past 19 hours. We'll cut them a little slack, right? I mean, sadly, and when Don Juan gets in here and Babyface gets in here and some of our audience members come in, we'll get a little more in depth. But I mean, sadly, lawfare failed and political violence was the next step. And we have seen political violence over the last 2 centuries, and we know exactly what it looks like, whether it's televised, tweeted, or live, right? It's never good for the country, for the victims, for our political discourse, and it is absolutely time that we unify, change the direction, trajectory of this kind of rhetoric, and move forward as a country. And we've got to decide that right here and now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what's going to happen, because it's just, we live in a different age. It's just too easy with this. This has changed the way everything has been marketed. Like, we know that sex and hate are the two greatest marketing tools, um,
Sadly.
sadly.
Mm-hmm.
But I see this period.
Chris, what's up,
Hey,
bro?
buddy, what's up? How you doing?
So I want to introduce a friend of mine, Uncle Rico. Chris Tarbert and I've worked together for years in the private sector, technology, the correction space. Chris is one of the most thoughtful people that I know, and Chris, give your impressions both as an American, as a parent, and just someone who has sadly, unfortunately, seen what political violence can do in your lifetime. Give us your impression of the last 19 hours.
Sure. I live in Colorado now, which is at least the part of Colorado I live in is even more staunchly conservative than the parts of North Carolina and Virginia that I lived in, which is actually saying a lot. And I've got a lot of friends in law enforcement, and I've had a family friend in the Secret Service who I actually want to talk to. I tend to look things that a little bit more analytically, and sort of I haven't processed sort of everything that's happened in the last 2 weeks. I mean, talk about probably you've probably seen the most political theater in the last 2 weeks than you've seen in the last 20 to 30 years. I'll say that
Mm-hmm.
from a broad standpoint. I think from a tactical standpoint, I hate to say it, I'm really disappointed in parts of the Secret Service. I think and
Yeah.
Mark and I talked about this as well. I think the detail team did a very good job. I think the advanced team and whoever was leading the overall Secret Service efforts yesterday should be fired. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, it's early, but it scares and worries me that we can't protect almost anyone anymore when something like this goes down. I mean, it's literally frightening. And if you take that in with all the political theater that I talked about earlier, it almost seems like the country is lurching into a banana republic. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what I'm seeing from an overall
Yep.
standpoint. And for me and my kids and Mark and I have discussed sort of the process for my oldest son and to trying to congressional internship, and
Yep.
now that Bobert's taken over our district, that sort of adds a lot more political theater as well. Um, guys, I'll be honest with you, it's frightening. It's frightening.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it,
Well, I got, again, this kind of political violence, we've seen it. My wife and I were, Mindy and I were at dinner last night, 6:15. Uh, Before I told her, I had to get up from the table, walk away, and read more than just a brief headline, i.e., is he alive? And I immediately got like 6 texts between the table and the front door of the restaurant about 60 feet away, and that was answered immediately, but everything welled up inside of me, and my chest expanded, and I was like, "Wow." And then, of course, a few moments later, before I walked back to the table, I also discovered the shooter was dead. So that answered some other things, and then I was concerned about collateral fire. And as far as the Secret Service goes, there's going to be a July 22nd House Oversight hearing that I actually am already writing QFRs, questions for the record, for a couple of members. Um, and there's going to have to be accountability because the security profile was like a wet taco.
yeah.
It was bad. I mean, this cat was 130 yards away, guys.
In the only, and from what I can tell, and I could be wrong, in the only elevated position within 500 yards
So
was
far,
where
yeah.
he was at. I mean,
So
come on.
far, yeah, yeah. That had a soffit top to it, so it was a concealed angle coming up. So anybody lower couldn't see over it, obviously. And they've already put out on the internet. I put it out on Instagram, just reposted it. You see where the ladder is between the two physical buildings going up, and then you see this angled roof, about a maybe a 12, 14-degree angle, and then there's this soffit piece at the top that further conceals this individual. But you have Pennsylvania State Police, you got the governor's office, you've got Secret Service, and you have state
Army
Homeland
Reserve, yeah.
Security that all have got to answer for this shit. Okay, and that's going to be the bottom line.
Good
The
luck with that.
woman who runs the Secret Service, she worked for PepsiCo, bro. She was
Yeah.
guarding Cheetos before she took the job 2 years ago. What the fuck?
Equity, dude. Love
Oh
it.
yeah, it's total DEI. What are you kidding me?
Well, when it happened, the first thing I thought about is we're becoming Ecuador. How many
Oh,
Ecuador's
oh
been
yeah,
knocking off political,
Brazil,
yeah, they're knocking off, presidential
Brazil,
candidates and stuff like that.
Venezuela,
We're no
Ecuador.
different. We're now
no,
no different.
Now, the
Ricky.
pessimist in me uh, went to different places. The psyop forensic psychologist in me started trying to piece together, okay, is it just a singular individual acting who's a nut, who's been online? Obviously, we saw the picture of him. He's your typical school shooter type, dorky, probably didn't get to invited to a lot of spin the bottle games in
You like
schools.
my
And
interior design there, Chris?
Yeah, I like it.
Sorry, Ricky.
thank you for that interruption. That's fantastic. I love when you interrupt my monologues. They're fantastic.
Sorry. Go. You're on. Speak to the nation.
what what is the purpose of it? Okay,
Mhm.
we saw a debate 2 weeks ago, and look at what has happened
Yeah.
within 2 weeks. Like the wheels have completely come off. And Joe Biden is going to hold the party hostage. Like he's not going anywhere.
Mhm.
Nobody can make him go. Not Obama, not Clinton, not Pelosi, none of them. He's got the delegates, and they went from we got to try to build a mutiny to now in the desperate corners. Something else has to happen. Now, tell me what would help a political race better. Okay. And I'm not saying that this is what happened, but my wheels get turning. You've got a president who's going to lose, Biden, Trump, who everybody hates. It's never about policy with him. It's only about getting rid of Trump. You take him out, and my prediction was Biden is going to be next. And then you get to kill two birds with one stone. Now, this is obviously pretty far out there, but we do have a government with the history of liking to do this, a la JFK. You would get rid of Trump, who you want. You'd get rid of the Biden that you don't want. And then you could say, you could counter the narrative of crazy Democrats trying to kill president. Well, if you get a crazy MAGA shooter doing the same thing, then you can cancel that out. That's the only way their election would be saved. Now, I
Yeah,
don't think
they can
that's what
blame January
actually,
6th redux.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to go that deep down into it because that's crazy territory.
Oh,
The
I
bottom
will.
line is these these idiots, the people that are complicit were still at it yesterday.
Hmm.
Trump
Well, did you see
removed,
Margaret Brennan on CBS News?
yeah,
She's blaming Trump.
of course they
And
all are.
then
Loud,
USA Today says loud noises.
Yeah.
loud noises startles former president and crowd.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the
Sticking
first
with
Well,
the first 30 minutes of
good,
coverage
Chris.
on this were absolutely atrocious. They're
oh
absolutely
my
Yes,
atrocious.
sir.
god.
Yes, sir.
And no matter which party you're from, everyone should be embarrassed about the first 30 minutes of coverage.
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
And look,
let me say this really quickly up front. I mean, I want to just, and I'm wearing this hat for a reason right now. My three nails hat is we. God was looking over Trump. God was looking over the nation. We had a blessing yesterday for him, for the president, for his family, and the country. Because can you imagine if our discussion right now was completely different than what it is? Right? I mean, Chris and I are both of a certain caliber in our age. He's a significantly younger man than I am, and I've lived through 8 of these, from JFK, RFK, MLK, Ford, Governor Wallace, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And on down the line. And I mean, Steve Scalise, obviously, Mr. Trump, yesterday, sadly. And the narrative seems to be the same. There's a security vacuum, there's a security problem, there's a narrative, there's a rationale for it. But at the end of the day, obviously President Reagan was shot, which is also horrible. I left that out, so apologies. Um, we've been here before. I think we know what the outcome is in 114 days. It's, what does the country want to be, right? God said, all right, we're giving you another chance. What are we going to do about it?
Well, that's the $1 million question. Can we get the media to stop stoking the divisiveness? Can we get candidates to stop stoking the divisiveness? I watched a documentary yesterday that's
Changing my persona.
really right on cue. I watched a documentary yesterday called This Place Rules. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if you know the guy, Andrew Callahan, young kid. He's one of those influencer types who wears, looks like a stoner, wears an oversized grandpa show up to work suit,
What platform is he
uh,
on?
HBO Max.
Okay.
and he goes and travels around to different political events, rallies,
Yes. Yeah, I've seen this kid.
and the he is pretty unbiased about it. But it's interesting when it gets to the part in the doc where it talks about how people have been stoking this fire. I mean, Mark talked about that yesterday. The Trump is a Nazi. Trump is a dictator. Trump is going to never give up the presidency. You know, on the right, it's this is the most important election of all time. America will never be the same. Both sides have said civil war in their own corners. Now, I believe in balance. So when you have the extremists on the left, and make no mistake, the left has picked this fight. All right. We've watched from October 7th to now. You know, that really kind of lifted the veil back on how crazy and lost a lot of these people are. But the Antifa types that would go to these rallies would always go and throw the first punch. And then you'd have the Proud Boy types that would come in and clean up. But there seems to be media that will not allow us to come together because there's too much of this involved. So I think the real question is, how do we as a nation come together knowing that the information that's going to be fed to us,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have this honeymoon period for the next 2 weeks, but after,
Mm-hmm.
how do we combat that? And that's a
Chris,
$1 million question. Chris, I don't know. What do you
yeah, what
think?
are your thoughts on that, man?
Well, I got one comment, and then I got two questions for both of you. Because I was actually encouraged yesterday by something that sort of slipped under the news cycle. But the first comment I want to make is on your comments on the left. I've seen comments, and I've talked to people on the left saying they wish the bullet had been 2 inches to the right, and I'm like, really? Okay, so you actually want civil war to start because, to be honest with you, if they had taken him out, you probably would have seen it, and it would have been a disaster over the next month or so if they had taken him out. Because whatever group you want to say, Proud Boys, anybody, people would have lost their mind, and that would have fractured the country even further. Now,
Which
look,
is what they want.
probably,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, look, and do I personally think that Trump's probably going to be able to get to the point where he's going to be able to, get everybody talking and back in line? Probably not, because I think he's got some scores to settle. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd like to see Trump, serve for a year or two and then hand the reins over after he has to do what he has to do to get it off his chest, and then let him go back to Mar-a-Lago and enjoy, the last 5 or 7 years or how long he's ever going to be.
I'll
But
actually address that strategically in a little bit, but
okay,
please
but
continue.
Mark, the question I had to you is, I was surprised but encouraged that and you know what a fan I am of her, but they invited Haley to come speak
Mm-hmm.
next week.
Yep.
Where did that originate from, and who sort of had to make the blessing to make that happen? Because that's one of the smarter things I've seen happen. There's
Yeah.
two smart things that somebody finally got to Trump in the last 2 weeks. Once Biden imploded at the debate, they said, act normal and just don't say anything for 2 weeks and let them implode. And
Mm-hmm.
he did. Okay. Then I saw that they were going to invite Haley to the RNC. Again, another good step. And
Yep.
then we saw what happened at the end of the day, and
So
then all hell broke
I'm
loose.
gonna answer that question, but I want to introduce my friend Ted McGavern, a good old boy from North Carolina. Chris Tarbert, longtime friend of mine. Rico, my co-host here on Read the Room on the No Filter Network. The No
Good,
Filter Network.
good to be with you guys today.
You too, brother. So, Chris, your question was who made the decision to invite Governor Haley? So, two people. One is Chris Lasavita, who was Glenn Youngkin's campaign manager in 2021, co-campaign manager for Trump 24, and who's a pro, who has incredible political instincts, and he goes back in Virginia politics 2.5 decades, and with significant wins from Governor Allen forward, etc. And Susie Wiles, who is down in Florida. She's an exceptional political professional with fantastic instincts. She was brought in by Trump in 18 to save, then August of 18, to save Ron DeSantis's flailing campaign. He won by 35,000 votes that year, and she did. And then some of the hubris engaged individuals from his congressional office just kind of pushed her to the side. She went, all right, that's cool. She went off and continued to do her thing. Trump brought her in 2020, and smartly brought both of them in the 2024 cycle because of their capacity. And so it was those two people that said, let Joe talk, Mr. President, and invite Nikki. And I think I only have half of the list right now. The list is about yay long. When you see the other individuals like Rachel Morin's mother and a variety of other people, not just politicos, you're going to come away with having some comfort that you ate a pretty well-rounded meal, the political rhetoric notwithstanding. But I will also tell you that what is also being shaped because of 19 and a half hours ago in those events is a calming and a unity and a bringing together of the country, looking at, yes, our differences, but more in practical terms than in personality. So none of us care for this individual over here. Nobody cares really for her, but she's not the issue. So just replace her with Biden, right? He's he's not the issue. It's his policies. What do they mean? What have they done? What are they doing? What would they mean 48 months hence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's where you'll see a real practical shift. And the cul-de-sac of denial that the Democrats are in now just got narrower. January 6th, no more.
Right.
Trump's Hitler, no more, et cetera, et cetera. Now, will some people put it out? Well, yeah, I can show you a couple of people on Twitter that already have. Oh, you missed, right? But they're like fleas on elephants, so they don't matter. Whatever they're going to do in Chicago after they finally get into the Chicago Convention Center from all the free Palestine protests and all the other shit that's going to happen, um, they're going to have a convention that is about that big instead of one that was this big yesterday before 6:15 p.m. And so they've got a real challenge on their hands. But in 114 days, the gentleman over my right shoulder is going to be the next president of the United States. We're going to sweep the Senate, and we're going to expand our coverage and majority in the House.
Mark,
Well,
are you going to be in attendance next week?
I am not going to Milwaukee. If it was
Oh.
in Nashville, I would go. I am not going to go to Milwaukee. I'm like,
if I can interject here just for a second, and
only if Ted flies me up there on his jet, then
say,
maybe I'll go.
there you go. Look, Milwaukee's got great beer, but I ain't going up there. So I got to make some money. So I got to tell you the parallels between what we're seeing today and what we saw in 1968 are scary. And I mean, it's not exact, but it's the same tenor. You've got a very divided country. You've had this assassination attempt. You have this doddering old man as president that simply can't do what he's up there to do. And the thing about a president is that we don't elect a guy. We do, but we elect a team. And it's a team we need. And I'm not the biggest fan of Donald John Trump, but he definitely brings the best team, and it's not even close. And I'm basically an energy guy, and the energy policy alone justifies the vote for DJT. I think what happened yesterday again gets to the left's just bereft uh, world that they live in of identity politics that is rapidly dissolving in play. And you knew at some point that it would, but like a lot of guys who just live off daddy's money. They just think the money's going to come in forever, and they don't make
Mm-hmm.
plans to go do something else that's productive. So now they're screwed to the wall with
Yeah,
identity
they're like living
politics.
off a diet of celery.
Exactly. So yeah,
It gets real
they're
old real fast.
real old real fast. And
Yep. Yep.
I could yeah, I could have just imagined, and I thought you put it real good about the civil unrest that would have broken out had he been killed yesterday. I don't know that we would have been. I think you'd have had riots in a lot of streets about it, and I don't necessarily think it would have been the Trump people that would have done it. I mean, every time that we see something like this, just like with George Floyd, we saw the left explode. And who did they? They didn't go to the prominent white neighborhoods and beat people up. They stayed where they
Well,
were and just
this is my favorite topic because Rick really likes it when I bring it up. When I was in France a couple of weeks ago,
I just shake my head. I just shake my head at those words right there.
hey, dude, Bordeaux. Okay, that's where I was. It was beautiful, but I was there just prior to the first round. The leftists went and rioted in Paris. I was there. I wasn't there in the second round because I was here in Estados Unidos. Thank you very much. The left went and rioted, and they won the fucking election. Hello, parle usted inglés? No, they don't. They speak French. And so, it's the same cast of characters that take advantage of a certain moment in time and try to wreak havoc. So let them. But yeah, I agree. We could have been in a real tough spot. Rick,
you
what are you thinking?
Well, Ted brought up a good point, and I think I'll speak for you, gentlemen. We all could have predicted this. This
Mhm.
is the sad fucking part of it. Pardon my French.
that's fine.
It sets me off because literally on our show on Friday, I said the only thing that's left is they're gonna take out a hit on him. Like
Yep.
that's
Yep.
it. And I'm so tired of being right.
Would you please
I
pat yourself on the shoulder, please? Just
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
patty machine. That's
everybody
right.
give Rick
Get
a
the
little
back
golf
patty
clap.
machine out.
No,
yeah,
no filter
but
golf clap here. There we go. There we
we
go.
all are. It's not even a point of pride anymore. Like we want to be wrong. Like they won't do the most basic dumb thing next.
No.
Like, we're all waiting for somewhere for them to turn the corner. But like children, if the adults leave the room, the kids are going to continue testing and testing and
Mhm.
testing and testing what they can get away with until
Yep.
their little bottoms get spanked. And the adults left the room 3.5 years ago. The adults have let the inmates run the asylum. And it's so frustrating to see the logical next steps of what was going to happen. And not just talking about what happened with Trump, but just what happens when you leave a border wide open. Are illegal immigrants going to be deterred from coming in, or are they going to come in more? Well, logic would say they're probably going to come in by the droves. What happens when you loosen up laws and make it easier for criminals to commit crimes? Well, they're probably going to commit more crimes and not be deterred by it.
Yep.
And things have slowly progressed. And my question for you guys would be, okay, we talk about coming together, but we also want to see retribution for the provocations, because make no mistake, the left wants another Jan 6 so they can say Jan 6, Jan 6, Jan 6. They're all about poking and prodding, and I warn every show for Republicans to stay calm,
Mm-hmm.
trust the process, all right? Have faith, because they want provocation. They want violence so they can cut it, put it on TVs and phones and say, look, they're evil, blah, blah, blah. But will we be able to come together while still having Trump dish down justice that is long overdue?
So my quick answer to that is yes, and it's the way he will do it, and I'll leave it at that and let these gentlemen chime in because I'll give you some detail on how I believe that will happen and with whom, Attorney General, et cetera, et cetera. But go ahead, guys.
I think I go back to my
Take
I
it.
think I go back to my 1968 model, and with Trump, you really have the this generation's incantation of Richard Nixon, a
Mhm.
man defeated and has launched a comeback, and what has largely launched that comeback is just a loss of confidence in the leadership process right now. It's we're
Mhm.
seeing it with the border, we're seeing it with just lawlessness that happened throughout COVID, and the lawlessness that we've seen now. The use of lawfare to restrict a candidate's ability to compete, and I think that has a very short fuse with the American
Which
people.
failed.
Yeah, it's been a total failure, and
Mhm.
I just think you're going to see a very similar situation with high quality. I tell you what, the AG and the Secretary of State are going to be the two most important appointments that he has to make,
Mhm.
and he's
Mhm.
got to get. He can't have
And
a Jeff.
Homeland Security.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he can't have Jeff Sessions as an AG.
No.
He's got to have a strong. I mean, he need look. People may not like Bill Barr, but hell, Bill Barr is the type of guy I'd be looking for. And I'm not saying him necessarily, but he needs a damn strong AG that can get
Mhm.
in there and clean house at justice and really get with this thing. And yeah, Homeland Security and DOJ are going to have to start working together like every day. I don't even know why we have a Homeland Security Department anymore. It's just ludicrous that we have all this stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're right. I see it.
Chris and I are in that business, but yes.
Well,
Uh,
let me say this, and
but
look,
go ahead.
I may be the
Thank you.
youngest in the group, although I'm not that young because I'm 55. But to your point about coming together, I'm going to be a little bit more jaded. I don't think it's going to happen until everybody in the old guard is gone. You've got Harry Reid is gone. You need to have Pelosi gone. You need to have Mitch McConnell gone,
Mhm.
and anybody above the age of 75 can't be president until you get some forward thinkers that
Mhm.
don't play to the worst sides of either party, far right, far left, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you're never. I don't think you're ever going to see anyone come together until the entire old guard is gone. I
Mhm.
saw. I don't know if you guys watched it, but I saw McCarthy on what's his face on who's the knucklehead who's airs on HBO on Friday nights. You know what I'm talking about, the stand-up comedian.
Bill
Mar.
Maher.
Oh, Bill Maher. And that was actually a pretty decent exchange. They took some good shots at each other. But the most entertaining and, again, frightening aspect of what I heard is that there's a strong belief now that Biden's not listening to anybody in his party, and
Mhm.
he's listening to Hunter now.
Yeah.
That's the one person he's listening to. And
Yeah.
if that doesn't scare everybody,
Yeah.
then I don't know what else to say.
He's listening to a high school principal and a crack addict. That's
Right.
basically it.
I don't.
Right.
I
Right.
don't think there's ever been a Biden administration. I think it's a bunch of fiefdoms out there that just kind of do their thing, and at some point, ice cream eater knows or doesn't know. And I'll give you an example that really was enlightening to me was the whole thing about when Lloyd Austin was quote unquote lost.
Mhm.
Well, this guy's directly in the chain of command, and the president didn't know
Exactly.
where
The
he was.
secretary.
Yeah.
Fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
We could have been nuked. No,
Right.
we
Right.
could have known anything
And,
about it.
Well,
and they did shoot off missiles over the Sea of Japan too.
Yeah,
North Korea did.
it's not weekend at Bernie's. It's
No.
weekend at Biden's. And where was
No.
he at? He was
Yeah.
at his Rehoboth Beach house.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's weekend at Bernie's.
And
yeah.
there's no. I've been here since 1984. There's no fucking way on God's green earth you're going to tell me that the deputies DepSec at Pentagon didn't call the White House and go, he's at Walter Reed. And they just fucking blew it off
Yeah.
because they're a bunch of arrogant, DEI, hubris laden bozos
Exactly.
in that White House. They make Jimmy Carter's people look like fucking geniuses.
Well,
Okay?
and as Trump said, they never fire anybody. So guess what? Even
No.
though half the Secret Service should be fired after
You're not going to
yesterday,
get fired.
nobody will be fired.
No.
Nobody will be
You know
fired.
what I'm going to do? So I'm writing QFRs, questions for the record. Chris knows what those are, and
Yeah.
Ted does too. But for the July 26th oversight hearing, I am coming to that fucking hearing with a bag of Cheetos. All right, you're gonna see me in the audience on C-SPAN. I'm gonna wear a blue suit so it shows up nicely. The orange bag, I'm just gonna be holding it there and sitting off to this broad's left. All right, I don't even drink soda, but I may have a can of Pepsi with me. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But what you said for a second ago on the old guard. So Hoyer, Pelosi, Schumer, Durbin, Clyburn, and McConnell are 1.5 times older in years than the entire country.
Yeah.
Okay, so they got to go, right? The problem, though, is you've got to flush down the toilet, and I think it began to occur yesterday, sadly, with DEI and ESG. I told Rick this a while back. Buddy of mine left a Senate chief of staff job to go to work for BlackRock, Chris. He's a Republican. BlackRock wants to get rid of ESG and DEI. So the money lords that fund corporate America are going, yeah, get rid of that shit. So you'll see that almost gone.
And follow through and build the stock exchange in Texas like Texas
Hundred
wants.
percent, yeah, 100%.
100%. We've got
Yeah,
to do that. We
no,
have to do
that
that.
would be brilliant. That would be absolutely brilliant. And so lawfare fails, political violence we know is next. And the only date, in my opinion, politically that Democrats are going to have to remember is July 13th, 2024 in Butler, Pennsylvania at 6:15 p.m. because January 6th is flushed down the toilet. We are going to hold accountable those that screwed up, get answers, and burn the next 114 days. Yes, to win an election, but also to put policies back in place so it's 2019 again, with Trump a little more calmer, etc. I will quickly answer what you asked about what Trump needs to do. No, he won't hand over after 2 years, but I can almost guarantee you, and I will come back to this within the first year after he's president again, knock wood, he only has 48 months. He thought last time he had 96 months.
96.
He's got 48, and he knows that. And the idea here, because we have a longer bench in the party, our friends on the Democrat side have got a bench about 2.5 inches long, and he will, if it's Youngkin or Vance, he will groom one or both of them to begin to take over after year 3. He's not going to leave and go to Mar-a-Lago, but he's going to do that so that we've got 28 to 32 and a good shot at 32 to 36, unless the American public have gotten fatigue from us, and that typically happens in a democracy.
Yeah.
But it also is incumbent on the Democrats to have to get their shit together, flush these leftist freakazoid billionaires and their acolytes down the toilet because they have destroyed the party of JFK, Bill Clinton, right? And it's broken up into 15, 16 factions. And if you don't believe me, rerun the videotape from all of last week before yesterday, back to the debate.
Yeah, they got what? They got one or two of the squad members out, right?
One, you got one so far. You got Jamal Bowman out, which I
Yeah.
was happier than a cat with kittens to read while I was in France, Rick.
And I think Cori Bush is on the way.
She's almost gone. Yeah, the candidate that's running against her and the general is actually running a damn good campaign and raising money.
Now, I might have to amend a statement I made on Friday.
What's up?
Which I said that Joe Biden may go down as the greatest Republican politician of all time because he has handed us on a platter the next 12 years, at least 8. But with the way Trump has had his comeback, the way he's come back a more matured, well manicured version, and then
Disciplined.
just the shot of him after he got shot, the fist pump. Like that is an iconic moment, and he's going to be able to do more in his 4 years than most presidents will be able to do in 8, because let's be honest, Biden is such a dumpster fire. His team is such a dumpster fire of just political hatchery. He's going to be able to come in, flip the script, and his numbers are going to look great. America's going to get churned again. We're going to turn back those pipelines, get this fucking ESG nonsense out of here. We're going to cinch up the local elections. You know, more people are going to be able to pay attention to local election. Blah blah blah. I I need to get a cognitive.
Down ballot elections.
But it's people didn't pay attention to that much. The average American didn't pay attention to that. And now they see the need to have reasonable minds and reasonable people in every level, because if you don't, you got what happened at the Pride Parade in San Francisco. You got what happened in LA, in shops all over, up and down. I mean, it's so important that it isn't just Trump and a few of the head positions, House, Senate. It's got to be a clean sweep. Like, this is a virus that has infected our country, and we need to pump out the antibodies to rid this so that we have a chance. Because make no mistake, those billionaires you talked about, Mark, they ain't going away.
Mm-mm.
They're here to stay.
No, they're not. I mean, Mark
Globalists
Benioff
in their
and a
jobs.
handful of these other, they're
They
not.
want to see a one state system. Okay. And
Hmm.
they're going to use climate change as their God.
There you go. Yep, that's the thing.
Without a doubt. So we have to push back. We have to pump these antibodies in and get back to normalcy. And I think that's what this election was about before, 20 hours ago. It was
Yeah.
the American people are just ready to get back to the basics, man. Like, make it easy for us to live. Give us a little extra money in our pocket. Don't start unreasonable wars. Pretty simple stuff.
2019, right there.
Yeah,
Chris, that's your
yeah.
future
I mean, go
right
out
there.
and do domestic energy production. I mean, that's again,
Hmm.
now that's my thing, and I'm going to dwell on it. So sorry, but
But it
it
works.
really is. It really is a
Foundation
national
for
security
democracy and
issue.
freedom.
It's a national security issue, like it or not. And I got to tell you, I think we need to start really looking at what the hell is going on in the Western Pacific, and we need to be seriously concerned about the state of affairs in the Southern American hemisphere, and we have just been screwing around with that. And I got to tell you what, James Monroe saw this shit coming, and we need to start paying attention to that damn Monroe Doctrine, because we've got the Chinese knocking on the Pacific shores of South America now. Um, and look, we've got tremendous opportunity in Africa if we play it, which Mark and I are working on now.
Hmm.
But I mean, these damn Europeans are just a pain in the goddamn ass anymore. And
Well, they're waking up. They're waking up to the Chinese issue. I mean, they're
well,
talking
they damn
about
well better.
that. Well, they are. I mean, they're talking about taking all the Chinese assets and trying to friggin' control them now, because they saw, they got themselves in a bind with the Chinese. The Africans probably aren't, I hate to say it, smart enough to realize the Belt and Road Initiative that China's done to them to basically own all their infrastructure. And if South America's not smart enough to see what happened in Europe and Africa, then God bless them, because it's
There are no institutions in South America that can support a consistent policy like that.
I agree.
That's
South
the problem
America
down
is
there.
absolutely next. I mean, if the world doesn't wake up, when you see North Korea, Russia, China, and Iran playing hopscotch together, like, wake up. That's an
Look,
actual
let
When
me
you
tell
see
you
the
power.
political
let me
disruption
tell
of the
you
top
what
of 11 of the top 20 nations in the country in the last 3 months, if you aren't awake, you're dead.
look. Let me just tell you, all three of those countries you mentioned there, the one common denominator is this, and we got to recognize this: they are proxy states of China.
100%.
That's the problem. We have gone after at the end of World War II and on into the Korean War. The proper assumption was that all the communist world emanated from Moscow all the way through Peking at the time, and you even had they know now there were Soviet fighter pilots in those MiGs in the Korean War. Well, when China and Russia broke up, Nixon exploited that perfectly.
Mhm.
Now, now China is the great tyrannical power. Russia is basically bending over and getting driven by China, and they like it. And that's what's supporting the war in Ukraine.
Mhm.
And I honestly don't know what to do about that, but I don't think we can abandon the Ukrainians. But I just, but see that thing has been a total drain because we've tried to fight a Marquise de Queensberry war with those guys, and we need to just beat the fuck out of them.
Right.
Well,
I like you. Hi.
Hi there.
Did
Sorry.
we lose Chris?
Surprise.
no, I'm still here.
You know, you
Okay,
are
there we
spot
go.
on when it comes to China and when it comes to anything in regards. And I was just thinking right before this podcast, who is to profit off of dividing our country? And it's China.
I know.
And you know, they're out to divide us in our own country. And
And
it's
Look,
they're brilliant.
and it's
They're
working.
brilliant
And I'm
about
not gonna fall for it. And it's not cool.
China. If you study, look, I studied the Pacific War quite a bit back during World War II. I just read a book on Simon's book on Nimitz that was fascinating. If you
Mhm.
look and see what China was doing in the 20s and 30s out in the Western Pacific, it is an exact mimic of what the Chinese are doing today and
Today.
have been doing since the 90s. We're
Mhm.
right back to War Plan Orange with a hell of a lot faster technology, and we've got to accept that. The difference is they understand they can get a beachhead in South America without screwing around with Hawaii.
Or
hmm
they can build a fake island in the South China Sea, and nobody's going to do
Well,
jack
that's the
about
whole
it.
thing.
And
Yeah.
China
Yeah.
is, let's call it what it is. China's brilliant. They've been
They are.
playing the long game. They've been
Mm-hmm.
playing the
They've been
long game.
civilized for 6,000 years.
Yep.
Well, they infiltrated our
Americans have
university.
gotten so impatient because we're such a me, now, instant gratification, lose sight. If it's not in front of us right away, China has slowly played. They've slowly gotten into South America, into Africa, into Russia. I mean, Korean War.
Into
What
Facebook.
happened there?
Well, they have their
Let's see.
fingerprints
Koreans were
on
about
the.
to lose, and North Koreans are about to lose, and who comes in to rescue them?
So
China.
I want to
They've been doing that
introduce
since
to
1950.
Yep.
I want to introduce to everybody that doesn't know Stephanie. So Chris Tarbert,
Hi,
Ted
Chris.
McGavern. Steph is a really good friend of mine. We met on the
Ah.
Heidi Ganahl campaign a couple of years ago. Chris now lives in Colorado, in your home state,
Oh,
Sweet Pea.
cool.
But she's down in Austin, Texas, kicking ass, doing
Awesome.
MMA and
Yeah.
teaching kids how to swim and
There you
doing some
go.
wonderful things.
Jujitsu. Toddler jujitsu. Woo woo.
Right? She's like,
Yeah.
"Excuse me, I don't want nap time," and then is going to go over there and kick the shit out of the teacher, right? Um, really quickly to answer Chris, who will be in the key positions most likely in a 47 administration? Guy over my right shoulder. Um, I believe right now that Matt Whitaker, former deputy assistant, former DAG, and acting AG, will likely be the senior candidate that comes out of up and out of all this. Now, Matt is sits on the board of the American Conservative Union with Matt Schlapp and Mercy and my good friend Dave Safavian, who runs the place. Conservative bona fides out the yin yang. The good thing about Matt is he's not a 30-year creature of Washington. He wasn't pulled out of a laundry pile from a previous administration like Bill Barr, who I have respect for to a certain extent, although he bears some responsibility for going overboard a year and a half ago on Trump. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about that at another time. You put a guy like that in there in an institution where we know where the bodies are buried, and you get a senior level firing across the board, and you extricate these people out down to level 2, level 3, and you're able to put people in, parachute them in almost automatically, not with a conservative bent only, but someone that wants to actually serve the country and get the job done. That's one. If Tom Homan, who I work with a lot, and Chris knows why in that regard, comes back, which I think he will, former acting director of ICE or Homeland under Trump, etc., he'll come back for at least a year to stabilize and also help run the extrication of secure flights of illegal aliens out of the country. You're going to see about 2 to 3 million flown out of the country in the first year and a half. That's a good thing, right? A solid chief of staff that doesn't hide in their basement like Jeff Zients does in the current one, you'll have that happening. You've got a mature, much more mature Donald Trump that can speak to the Stephanies of the world and even Stephanie's liberal friends as well, who happen to be women, and not piss them off, right? And then you have either a JD Vance, who I like to a certain extent, although he compared Trump to Hitler and heroin early on before he figured out that the only way that he would win a Senate race. I'm not saying this to diss the guy, but it's like he calls Peter Thiel, his old boss, and goes, "Can you get me on the phone with the former president? I need his endorsement to win by 6 points." Rob Portman, the previous term, who'd been there for 3 terms as a senator, won by 20 points in Ohio.
Yeah.
Just saying. Okay.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
always
You do
that's
the
where I
math,
am on
right?
this. Exactly.
The other point I'm going to make is if you have a Glenn Youngkin in there, it brings you a better chance to score Virginia. You score Virginia, game over.
Oh, game over.
Give him the blue wall. I don't give a shit. Okay,
Yeah.
right? But the thing I like about Youngkin is he's not a politician. He's been a successful governor. He can talk to foreign leaders. He can talk to hedge fund people because that's what he is. And he also has a very even keel about him that I think perhaps all of us on this in this audience in this show today can agree is someone that you can air quotes live with and support in a full term going into 28. That's my assessment at this point is what he has to do to stabilize the forces that don't recognize or behave, don't care about the law, and don't think there are consequences, and we can reinstitute that. Sans 3 strikes you're out because that's a joke. So that's just kind of my snapshot of where I think things can go. Thoughts, ideas.
Absolutely.
Guys,
So
I've got to run. I've got a 2 o'clock call coming
where
up
are you
with,
going, boy?
and I have found this to be wonderful. Let me know next time we have a little chat. I'll see if I can't join in.
We'll do it.
And Mark, if you can throw me that 5 pager from Nick,
I will.
I'm gonna get a couple of those out this week.
Good deal.
I think digging coal is going to come back in vogue in a lot
Oh,
of.
I think so. We got a unity government in South Africa, whether they like it or not.
Well, I'm hoping we get a unity government in the United States, whether they like it or not.
We will. We
All right,
will.
guys, my
Thanks,
pleasure
Dad.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Until we meet again, Stephanie, you too.
Likewise.
All righty, see you guys.
See you, man.
See you.
Anyway, thoughts on any of that, you guys?
Well, look, I'd be fine with Youngkin. I mean, I think you get a breath of fresh air. I'd also be curious to see who you think about if he's even thought about chief of staff yet. Because to me, that may be even more pivotal than VP.
There's about 5 people that I know of who could do it that are in Trump's sphere, but no, he has not. That is not a decision that I'm aware of, and I mean, I'm pretty close to that environment.
I just think for the
come
first
up.
2 or 3 years, chief of staff's actually even more important than VP. I mean,
I
VP's
couldn't
good.
agree more.
Yeah, VP's good for the election and optics and stuff like that. But in terms of actual execution, chief of staff in the first 2 years to me is more important.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if Grinnell came in as chief under Trump, he and Trump are close as a couple of fingers, and then Lasavita said, "All right, I'll do it." Underneath Youngkin, he gives up his political consulting for a year or two, and then hops back into it. In the after the midterms, and gets him through the midterms, perhaps. But it's going to be those kinds of people that also can work together. They just can't have a partition between the two offices
Yeah.
or the personalities, because that tends to ruin a White House.
Well, regardless of who gets picked, the beauty is that the bench is deep
Hmm.
and it's going to be better than what we had. Now, it is absolutely paramount that he hits a home run, but it will be nice just to see somebody who's on the same page with the American citizens, at least
Right.
most of them, and that's going to be the important part of this whole process is listening to the people, what they want, listening to the core issues, because we all know what the core issues are. It's been pulled out a million times. Okay. So listen to them, give them what they want, use common sense, and you'll have one of the greatest presidencies in modern history, if not of all time.
It could be Reagan 84, but on steroids, right? 40 years later. So I have two questions. I'm going to ask Steph the first one, but I want the second one. I'd like you guys all to chime in. We've done that a little bit before Steph came on. Um, the second question is, what does the assassination attempt of Trump mean for the country? So just think about that for a second. The first question, which is to Steph specifically, because we haven't asked you that, is how are you feeling from the last
After
20
yesterday,
hours? And what are you feeling right now?
that when you least expect it, the enemy will try to take you out. And sometimes it's a matter of faith and divine intervention.
Mhm.
Just because my understanding of how close that bullet was, um it seems as if it was an organic, a person that was an extremist and actually filled with hatred. The very thing that they speak out against goes to show that these little minions, they're waiting to bite at the bit at Trump.
Okay. But how are you feeling personally? I mean,
Person,
at 5:15 Central Time yesterday, or a few minutes after, when you learned of it, how did you feel?
I felt like, you know what, just try me now. Just keep trying,
Hmm.
like just watch us. Like you can throw arrows, you can throw bullets, you can, whatever. But if it's supposed to happen,
Hmm.
nothing is going to stop what's coming. And that is what essentially, like, I believe Trump's whole campaign is nothing will stop what is coming. And we're coming for them pedophiles. That's like my number one thing. Coming for the
Yep.
pedophiles, coming for
Well, you work with
the
kids. Yep. Too.
the drug dealers
Hmm.
that are bringing fentanyl over the border. We're coming for you.
Right.
And,
Right.
all the individuals that are tied to you, and if you're up in high places, you better watch, because quicksand is quick. It's quick.
Well, everybody knows who knows Steph. Steph's a fighter. So, Chris, what does the assassination attempt of Trump mean for the country, from your perspective? And then Ricky.
Well, I think again, going back to the tactical level, it makes us feel exposed. I mean, if this was a lone gunman, 20 year old, probably didn't have much experience or whatever, and he can achieve what he
Yeah.
achieved. I mean, look, one
And
inch, 2 inches, and he takes him out. What if this had been better funded, better planned? They would have got him. So to me, whether it's left, right, or
Right.
whatever, if all of our political leaders basically can be taken out at any time, I mean, I said it before, we're back to a banana republic. We're back to Ecuador,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
I think from a country standpoint, when we talked about China, we talked about Russia. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think we're the most exposed we've ever been as a country in the last 40, 50 years. That's what would keep me up at night, especially for my kids and the next
Mhm.
generation.
True.
We are exposed.
You're right.
Rick, what does the assassination attempt mean to you, man?
Honestly, a whole lot of nothing. The sad part is I knew it was going to come.
Mm-hmm.
Like, read the tea leaves. You knew when desperate people do the worst things, okay? And these are some desperate dogs.
True.
I I'm not going to say that I 100% believed it would happen. I was erring more on the side that it wouldn't happen. But was I shocked that it happened? No. And that was the frustrating part. When it happened, I was like, finally happened. They finally tried.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part is instead of being enraged initially and being like, how could this happen? This is America. This shouldn't happen here. It was par for the course. Like,
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
that
sad
part.
reality of what we're in. And
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
what Chris said about being exposed, we are exposed. We've been exposed. And it's another wake up call. The first shot was the debate. People woke up. Well, actually, the first shot was October 7th. That's when the veil started to lift for
Mm-hmm.
people that, oh, wait, we've handed power to some actual nut jobs, some whiny, bratty little kids who know nothing about America, nothing about its history, drink their chai lattes, and get to live spoiled lives. Then we move to the debate. The veil gets lifted even further because that week we know deep fakes. Biden's not old. He's the smartest man in the world. He's the smartest man in the room. He's very active. Trump's the actual old one. Saw the debate and the wheels came off. And that's when they became desperate dogs. And we saw what happens with desperate dogs. And when you've been spewing nothing but dictator, Hitler, like, of course, somebody's going to come up in their mind and be like, I'm going to go down in history as the person that killed Hitler. Like, what if somebody had just killed Hitler at the beginning?
Good call.
These,
Yep.
these ludicrous young machinations. They're this kid's 20 years old. He doesn't know his ass from his elbow.
Nope.
I didn't. 20-year-old me?
His
Come
brain's
on.
not even developed yet.
Yeah.
No.
So it's not shocking. It's frustrating. But the other side of that is it's only going to supplant what was already happening, the movement that's already been happening.
Okay.
And to show that front and center, I feel hopeful today. For the first time in a while, because he survived,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that there was something else that worked there. You don't miss by that much.
No.
Like, even if it's that much further left and that bullet hits,
No.
like, it's anybody who's shot a gun knows that it's not always in and out, especially when something's compact like that. You're going to have explosion. There's going to be psi pressure that, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
And
Mark, I got a jet too, but I just want to make one last comment. So my,
Please.
my other my other fear is that when I talked about how exposed we are, so all of our enemies out there are watching. They're watching the turmoil in our country,
Right.
and we know how many potentially sleeper agents are coming across the border, whether they be Chinese, Russian,
Right.
or whoever, or agents of drug dealers and stuff like that. So I asked the group, and then I'll sign off in a couple of minutes. Is
Or the
does
12 million that are already here.
right? Does this set up for another 9/11?
Yes. Yes,
That's my
it
fear.
does, sadly. I think that when you test security boundaries when you test the metal foundation, what have you, and you go after something as large as a potential president and a presidential candidate, no different than Russia invading more of Ukraine in a Democrat administration. The
Or
Hermit
China with
Kingdom,
Taiwan.
pardon me?
Or China with Taiwan.
Right, the Hermit Kingdom waking up, China with Taiwan et al. Right, you definitely are testing boundaries to see how far you can go. What I what I also look at is the political reaction, and again, multiple nations, 11 or 12 of the top 20 of the G20 have said, we don't support what you're doing as our leaders. We want to change. We know what the countries are. We won't alliterate them, other than France, Rick.
Good. What
Okay.
country? I didn't hear that.
France, bread, cheese, wine.
Oh,
Um,
oh, oh, oh.
you end up you end up with a slowing of that capitulation of those that wish to do even more harm.
Right.
And what do I mean by that? I keep going back to 2019. In 2019, energy, gas, food, housing, inflation, interest rates, et cetera, were all stable. People could live, they could vacation, they could plan, they had comfort, et cetera, et cetera. 1995, my son Sean was born. 2002, when he was 7, was from until last year. I felt safe as a cat with kittens going into the District of Columbia. From 95 to '02, you had to look over your shoulder. It was pretty fucking bad. It's even worse now. When the average age of a carjacker in the District of Columbia is 15 years old, you got real fucking policy problems. Bad policy begets bad outcomes, period. And when you have no policy and no accountability, you've just got chaos. You got the gangs in New York with Daniel Day-Lewis out front and DiCaprio over here, and they're going at each other. I don't feel safe in the District of Columbia, Chris. You and I have been there a long time, and it's going to take about another year and a half with him in there and accountability. I'm personally going to start writing a bill that I wrote in the '90s when we put a control board in place in DC to do it again, not just for finances but public safety,
Yeah,
because
and look,
those idiots on the city council and that mayor, they're worthless as tits on a bull.
and Chicago, Seattle,
Absolutely,
Portland, San Francisco, LA, or
absolutely.
Memphis, they're no different.
Nope.
They're not getting
Memphis,
better, they're
Tennessee,
getting
bro.
worse.
Memphis, Tennessee.
Would anybody want to step foot in
Milwaukee,
Memphis right now? You
No,
Chicago.
couldn't pay me to.
no, it's Steve Cohen's district. The guy's a bozo.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. So it's all of those things, and we have to get back to that, and I think we will.
All right. Hey, Mark, let's after the NRC, let's try to get a regroup, okay?
Let's do that. But I'll also reach out to you tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good, brother.
Catch
Appreciate
up
it.
again.
Thanks. Good to meet everybody.
Peace.
Take care.
Thanks, man.
One
Anyway.
thing one thing that I wanted to piggyback on that was something that they have been saying in the media is chaos. And like they've been repeating it, it's been a talking point, and I think their goal is to create more chaos for the average individual to have a hard time to process what it is that's really going on in there, and let alone take care of their daily life on top of the stress of their home life. And I honestly don't think that the average person should be involved in politics on a daily, to where, where to a level that we are even sometimes, because it detracts from like actually living and carrying out your actual life, and it's done on purpose to cause disruption, disarray, stress, and it makes it difficult for our society to thrive. And so that's going to be a goal, and we're going to just have to buckle up in our minds and be ready for weird angles that they're going to try to throw at us to throw us off.
Well, I'm going to show you guys something that I want you to read that if you can.
I can't read it.
I don't condone violence, but please
Right.
get you some shooting lessons so you don't miss next time. Oops, that wasn't me talking. So that's an individual by the name of Jacqueline Marshaw. Doesn't mean anything to the two of you, shouldn't mean anything to the two of you. Until 45 minutes ago, this moron was a staffer for none other than, let's get rid of his Secret Service because he's a convicted felon, Congressman Benny Thompson, Democrat from Mississippi, January 6th chairman, who's a complete douchebag. Well, she got fired.
Good.
For posting that, right?
Good. She should.
So, again, that kind of
Beat 'em
political
out.
violence is exactly what you're talking about, Steph. In cahoots with the media who want to change the narrative or shape it. They are looking for any little pinhole to get in and through and go and expand it out. So they completely remove the blood-stained fig face and the fist in the air, fight, fight, fight narrative. So it shifts back to the ice cream eater over the next 114 days. Not going to happen, but they're going to try and do it.
Yeah, and then it gives all the liberal individuals their little talking points that they can regurgitate and spew over and over and over, and then you give them an actual argument to that counteracts their narrative, and then they don't know what to say, and then they just regurgitate as if they're a freaking robot.
Right.
Well,
Rick, what were you going to say, buddy?
Over and over again.
This is the beauty of it all, and it's why I thought that they wouldn't plan a hit on Trump, is because it is it's such a bad mood if you're trying to win a campaign. Like, as an established power, it's such a bad move. The optics are bad. You're just gonna bleed votes. Now, what happened yesterday and what Mark just talked about, everybody trying to distance themselves from it and shove it back to Biden. The beauty for every down ballot candidate is going to be able to pull up a post, a feed, a video of these assholes talking about Trump's a dictator. We need to get Trump. We need to take him out of office. Some of them have said a lot worse things than that. And it's up to the RNC, it's up to Republicans at the grassroots level, independent journalists, to start combing through the profiles of every staffer, every family member, and every politician that's running a campaign or is supporting a candidate, and start pointing out who helped what happened yesterday by just their actions, their words. Yeah. And that is going to just throttle candidates, and I cannot fucking wait.
So let me give you an example right there at home, buddy. Is Ruben Gallego, who is a vociferous, foul-mouthed douchebag who wants to be your senator. His little cul-de-sac or aperture just got tighter and tighter, right? Now, what Carrie Lake has to do, besides getting an actual campaign and running a message and actually doing ads and making sure she's doing GOTV and door knocking and be out there. So how about going to Prescott and Snowball, sweetheart, instead of Maricopa County, right? And
she's so bad.
I know, but I just I don't want to blow a Senate seat because we have a shitty campaign with a modest candidate, right? It's like
Right?
this is so winnable. It's not even fucking funny. Anyway, otherwise you're going to end up with Baby Talk Part Two, but he's got a beard and he's a psychopath as a senator instead of that idiot governor you got right now that sounds like a child when she speaks.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, she has to moderate her vociferous, bespoke rhetoric, right? And just keep it inside what people are running on, concerned about, etc. Thank God he's alive. We've got a job to do. Are you with me? Here's the job. Boop boop boop. Here's the laundry list. So
You bring
that's
up
you're
such a good
100% right.
you bring up such a good point there. Every
Why, thank you.
single Republican candidate who is hurting in the polls has a chance to rebrand themselves
Right.
right now. Every single one. And we're hearing, they're going on TV. We shouldn't make this about politics. Fetterman's on there going,
Oh
we should
please.
just make this about coming
Better
together
God.
and blah, 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 blah. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody was thinking, anybody that's in the business is thinking about optics. Okay, let's be honest. There's some real
Mhm.
savages amongst us. Me being one of them. And the first thing that I thought, honestly, after it happened, was optics. How can you play this? He
Mhm.
survived. What's going to happen? Who did this? Why did they do it? What were the motives? Who was involved? How far does the spider web go?
Right.
But back to the original point, every Republican has a chance to rebrand or at least get a bump if they're already doing well.
Mhm.
And it's up to their campaign managers, the people running it. It's up to them to get that message out, to hit
Mhm.
the pavement, to hit the phones, to hit the social medias, and to get the deep dives on their opponents, on
Oh,
where
we will.
they're coming from. And yeah, and I think they will.
Yeah.
I think most of them will. I
Well,
think a few of them
I'll
obviously
give
are
you
going to
guys
do
a
a
little
shitty job.
inside baseball. So you know what I do for a living and all that crap, right? And so I have colleagues that are in comms that are running actual campaigns, that are raising money over here, and I'm doing this, doing issues as well, and all of the above. And you hear from your friends in the MMA world, that person's an asshole. I hope they get their ass kicked. Or, oh, by the way, the leadership of this organization is failing, which is why we're not seeing enough matches and this, and this. And you're, over there going, well, okay, the administrators of the school aren't going to let us practice as much because they want to turn part of the football field into a fucking garden or some stupid shit like that, right? You hear on the ground from your friends and colleagues how things are going. Here's what I haven't heard for an entire year, which makes me really hopeful and happy, is Susie Wiles and Chris Lasavita don't really get along, and there's a lot of fighting in between, and then there's this personality and that one and the one before, and da, 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 da. None of that is happening inside of Trump 2024. It's fucking awesome. And it's completely the opposite of what was happening in 2020 because my good friend Dave Bossie, who runs the whole convention thing, he's the CEO of Citizens United. You may have heard of that before. The Supreme Court decision. Thank you very much. So he's been a longtime friend. Kellyanne wasn't there, sadly. She was going through some things personally. But in 2016, it was her, Kellyanne, and Dave Bossie. Bada bing, right? Ran the thing, got him elected. Peace, love, Obama, right? That's where we are right now with La Savita and with Wiles. And so I am very confident that while they receive a lot of incoming information from all forms, they've built a conduit and a process with staff that they then bring it in, assess it themselves, shut the vault door, make their own decisions, and then come out with how to then go to the boss, Trump, execute it, put it out there, right? Because they've got Jason Miller and they have other outlets and they've got other other colleagues out there that are able to subsequently spread that message. So I am very comfortable and not, oh fuck, like that, going, oh God, this is gonna be it's gonna be tighter than a gnat's behind, right? I'm not there, I'm very happy, just to reiterate it for a third time, that none of that is going, because I don't have to like take a deep breath and cross my fingers. So
Yeah,
feel pretty good about it.
I do too. That documentary yesterday watched reminded me of FAFO too.
When was that done? Was that this year or last year, or when was that done?
2022.
Okay, so a couple of years ago. All right, so a different time, but yeah.
Yeah, it was all swirling around the 2020 election.
Mm-hmm.
It's all based from November to uh Jan 6th. And
Okay.
it talks about just how when you look back you could see it coming, how they were setting up for that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of raw footage, and it's great because you get to see, like I see still today, the differences between the protesters. One is a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me which is which, okay? Man beating on a little tiny drum that says Jesus on it by himself, and group of people with megaphones yelling, "Fuck you, fascist! F you, Nazi! What the F are you doing here? You're stealing from our indigenous. You're stealing indigenous iconography." Okay, now with that information, who's Republican, who's Democrat?
Say iconography fast 3 times real fast. I'm just kidding.
Iconography.
The former was a Republican, the latter was a Democrat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Question 2 for Steph. Who sounds more like the Republican? Who sounds more like the Democrat? Walking down a street with your partner wearing a red hat,
Mm-hmm.
or a group of people that are macing, hitting,
Democrat.
kicking women?
Those.
Who's hitting the woman and who is the scared woman?
Oh, well, the Democrats I feel like are hitting, and then I feel like the woman is the Republicans, because we always are trying to be what's the word?
Non-confrontational,
Pacifist.
pacifist. Yep,
Uh,
and you're right. Group, you got this couple just walking, not doing anything.
Well, that actually
Literally
happened,
just
right?
walking into their space. And then you hear about how, well,
Yeah.
just by them walking in our space, they are inciting hate and violence. So therefore, they justify beating on a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to be the party of women.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, time and time again, you see them attacking women. And I guess that's the face of equality at the end of the day, is when they're just cells, clumps of cells, it doesn't really matter. You can beat on whatever you want. And it
And that
just
actually
reminded me,
happened.
because the few times that they showed the Proud Boys and people like that going, they always cleaned house. They always cleaned house. Like the soy boys never beat
The soy
the
boy.
soy boys never won. They never won the fight. Shocker. They had their shields and their masks and their weapons, and the PBs of the world had their fists.
Right.
Sometimes they
And,
had
and
a stick
what
or something.
what you described with the woman walking, remember a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, a little boy and a woman were walking out of a Trump rally in the Midwest, I think. And the two girls that came and took the hat off, uh, beat on the woman and hurt the little kid, they went to jail.
Yeah.
Good.
They went to jail. So that fomenting, like we're talking about, we can see over and over and over again. What I will tell you is very likely to happen because you've got guys like Dave Bossy, and you've got people like Kellyanne, you've got other people in there, the Los Avitas, the Wiles, et al. In there is we will take, I'll put it this way, instead of saying you did this, therefore retribution of X, remember, his success is going to be, his revenge is going to be success.
Oh,
It's not
totally.
going to be a bigger stick and more blood,
Called a
right?
boomerang effect.
Not
Yeah.
going to do that. We're going to take the opportunity for 4.5 days in front of the American public and show you exactly what a Republican Party is that's unified, big tent, visual for everyone, and what we're going to do should he come back into power, and let the American voter make a decision. And it will suppress, and so therefore you won't get a tit for tat environment.
Mm-hmm.
One other quick point I was going to make that's historical is in the beginning of the 60s, the free speech movement. And again, I have two older sisters who were both, in high school and whatnot then. Beginning of the free speech movement was started in Berkeley, spread to other campuses. A lot of these kids that weren't much older than the shooter were wearing suits and ties, appropriately dressed in dresses and appropriate shoes, addressing their administrators with respect, but also maintaining and arguing a full-throated and well thought out position on free speech, right? Inside of a campus. The anti-war movement, so there's about 6 or 8 factions that grew between, call it 62 and 1970. The anti-war faction was an amalgam of people that didn't agree with the war, that also were respectful, others that were not. And then you had the Weathermen and the uh, Black Panthers and other folks that you just relive your Forrest Gump movie from that scene when they were at the mall doing the protest speech, and the Abby Hoffmans of the world. Those individuals didn't give a shit, but neither did the cops in Chicago, 1968. They beat the living shit out of everybody who they could get their hands on. American families were aghast at that, never before seen. So you fast forward to today, we're going to make sure that the visual, the content, and the ability to respond is such that you will register almost immediately how people feel about that. And I think what you're going to see, you guys, is a real shift coming out of Milwaukee that is just going to float over the top of whatever the Democrats do a month later. Because all you said, we're going to focus a couple weeks, et cetera. After that, I think the immediate focus after 5 days of bumps is going to be right on Joe Biden again, and he can't handle it. And their cul-de-sac and aperture is narrowed, and now they gotta respond, and they got a track record that nobody likes.
Yeah.
So they're right back in that same cul-de-sac of denial, and it's like, how the fuck did we get out of this? And Democrats are still going to be calling for Joe Biden to step down,
And it's
leading up to and maybe even after the Chicago convention. Anyway,
Obama could run and he wouldn't beat Trump because now
no.
Trump has the X factor. All he has to do is point at his ear and not incite violence and hateful rhetoric.
Right.
That's it. He gets to take the high road the rest of the election, and nobody could. The worst thing happened for the Democrats is he survived.
He had the hand of God on him. Yes, Rick.
The guy missed. He wasn't supposed to, and that was God giving America her final shot.
Show me your favorite meme from the last 21 hours.
I don't have one. I couldn't tell you one, but the one that there's so many going on about missing. Yeah, the one that you posted.
That one will never be forgotten. That's democracy. That's the threat to democracy, a real one.
Yeah.
That is a that is a real threat to democracy right there. Did you see that, Steph, that I posted?
I didn't see that one yet.
Here's my favorite one, though, guys. This is my favorite. Well, this is kind of my second favorite because I love art. Okay, I love that one. That's a good one.
Oh my God.
Instead of Van Gogh and Arl, that's Trump and Butler, right?
Yeah.
But here's my absolute favorite, which you guys will dig because this is also from your time as you were growing up. That one's badass.
Mm-hmm.
Little
Tell
Matrix.
Wow.
What up,
me.
baby? What's happening?
Dun, dun.
That face on her.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a little crazy screamer.
yeah, like who would want to go to who would ever want to sit down and have dinner with that?
There
You
he
know what
is,
I mean?
baby. What's up?
Yeah, he's Tio.
Tio or Nemo or whatever his name was. Keanu
No,
Reeves, who I
it's
love to death.
Tio, but you put T at the front, so he becomes Tio instead of Neo.
There we go. Tio. Very good. Okay, we have to, you got to copyright that, bro.
As in
Yeah.
Tio Rico.
People.
Tio Rico Favorito. There
I
we go.
shared mine
Can you
with
do that, Rick? Can you,
Hillary
can you
Clinton.
bend like that?
Not like
Do
him.
you see how quick that was? Look how fast he's moving,
These are
Stephanie. He's an
good.
octopus.
Light speed.
Right. Anyway,
Are you tripping
um,
or
time
something?
we got left. I've been through 8 of these, like I said, from JFK to Trump, right, and 6 in between. And it's like, are you kidding me? Every 9.1 years, a politician gets shot at in this country. That's just pathetic, right? There will be accountability. There will be an analysis. That's what congressional hearings are for. It will be conveyed in such a way that it is undeniable who screwed up and who needs to be held accountable. We'll see if someone gets fired. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be it'll be
Someone.
the first in this administration, right?
Hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You let 12 million illegal aliens in the country and you still have your job, right?
Now,
Alejandro Mayorkas.
is it true that uh, Trump has less security detail than normal for ex presidents, or is that
Yes.
just that's
Yeah.
true?
Yeah. And RFK Jr. Still doesn't have Secret Service protection after now 20 hours of this shit. That's insane. That's insane.
See, I was hoping that was just internet
No,
bullshit, but
no, it's ridiculous.
like they tell us they're literally telling us what they're doing.
Yeah,
Like that's
pull
the
this leg,
crazy
it plays
part.
jingle bells.
It's not that I'm smart or we're you guys are smart. You know, I'm
You're
just
all there.
I'm just listening.
Hmm.
That's all I'm doing is
Hmm.
listening and looking at what they're doing after.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry though. I mean, the woman who the DEI hire at Secret Service was a risk management person at fucking PepsiCo. Okay? I mean, she was more interested in guarding this non-real icon and
Jeff,
Cheetos and Pepsi than really being in law enforcement and understanding the importance of that job. And so that's what you get when you put liberals in a place of power that have no idea what they're doing and are ultimately a bunch of friggin' grifters.
you
But you know
see,
what?
and you
Like,
could
Outside and we move forward. Anyway,
you
sorry.
could X out the liberal part and you can just put that's what happens when you put dummies in positions where they need to be smart. Like
Hmm.
it it holds true because yeah, these are Democrats that are under the gun right now, but basic common sense says that if you give a hard task to a stupid person, the stupid person is going to fail at the hard task. Steph,
Right.
what were you going to say?
I'm just sick of this amateur hour.
Yeah.
Like it left and right. And I'm just like, I could probably do a better job.
Probably.
Yeah.
Just knowing me and how I go about things, like I could even do a better job. So I'm just, I really encourage like the American public to kind of get their act together. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of these pansy asses. I'm sick of these kids that are entitled. We were built off of hard work, off of, our those blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors. And I don't put up with this. Like, we're a laughing stock to the world. Like, people come to America from other countries, and they kind of laugh at us because, like, in Europe, it's not okay to wear like yoga pants in public, but here we
Mm-hmm.
wear pajamas in the
Mm-hmm.
airport.
And
And
slippers. Yeah.
it just, I'm kind of going on a little bit of a rampage, but it kind of just goes down to the very fabric of our society, and
Mm-hmm.
that people just need to snap out of it, okay? Snap out of it, and then, okay, what has not been working in their life? Okay, let's look at what's also not working in our society. Oh, and let's also look at, maybe we should stop uh what is it, projecting our frustrations on other individuals, and take an internal look at ourselves, and also try to come to an understanding of maybe where we have come short, and just move
Mm-hmm.
on, and let's get better all together. And that's where, as a society, I feel like we can come together from all of this nonsense that we talk about on a daily, of what the enemy, the Democrat liberal side did, and, oh, what did the Republicans do? But at the end of the day, we're all, the same individuals. We just need to work together.
Well, I'm going to leave you guys with something to think about, and a little bit of a challenge for the show going forward. We had divine intervention yesterday at 6:15 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. Not in France, by the way, Rick.
Oh
It would have been 12 midnight
no,
the
he's
next day. We had divine intervention. We have the ability to put back into office an individual that understands how a business runs, how an enterprise system operates, the mistakes he made last time that he didn't quite get finished, etc., the hubris he engaged in a little bit. And he'll get it right this time, along with the right partner, vice president, who can then carry that forward, him or her, etc., etc. What I think we challenge ourselves with is understanding, first and foremost, that the Democrat Party and the left are completely broken, and
totally
they have to fix themselves. Can we help a little bit? And if they want to adopt some of our ideas, thoughts, principles in a bipartisan fashion, welcome. Pull up a chair. Let's get to work. Come on. This is our country, right? It's yours and ours. Let's work together. Okay. So going forward on Read the Room, I want us to take that thought process, that mindset, and begin to talk about things where we can bring people together and be that example outward. So that's one. And the other thing of the two is that while we are doing that individually on topics on shows and things that you and the three of us share with one another, etc., we now have an opportunity to teach, to engage through teaching, and learn things we didn't understand, but also teach those who don't know and don't have the guidance that you would think they would at 22 or 20 or 18 or 17 or even younger, and maybe even a little bit older. But you go, you know what? Not a problem. I'm not going to make a judgment on what you said or may have what you've done. How can I help you understand there's a different way? Right?
cool. I
Part
love
of
that.
that comes from my being working in the corrections space for a long time and seeing individuals that have been sanctioned by our society because they broke the law and they're behind bars, right? They can't go out to the Piggly Wiggly or whatever at will, and so they have to serve a sentence. And so that a little bit comes natural, but it comes natural in other ways. I think that's what we do. I think that's the silver lining in what happened yesterday and thank God what didn't happen, or we'd have a different conversation. But I think that's what we can take away from that is
Love that.
teach to be an example and to put that out there so we get back to that 2019 environment in 25 and make that even better. Those are my thoughts. Those are my closing thoughts for the day.
I love it.
All right.
Brilliant.
I think America needs to go back to charm school. That's what I think, because we've lost etiquette
Oh,
somewhere along the line. You know, Steph was talking about the whole yoga pants, the pajamas,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lack of etiquette, because somewhere in the last decade, etiquette has meant the white male Christian patriarchy, like having a, a sense of self respect,
Mm-hmm.
sense
Mm-hmm.
of law and order and ethics, is this idea that the white male patriarchy has put down on people. And so we've gotten real lax. We've gotten way too lax because we just want to be comfortable. We want what we want when we want it. And we got to get back to etiquette and what you guys just echoed,
Mm-hmm.
working together.
All right.
Like, that's part of living in a modern society,
Yep.
is living with people you may not agree with, but you have to make it work,
Well, that's our
or else
charge
it
then.
falls
That's
apart.
what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. You guys are awesome. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll obviously talk on Friday. Okay. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for
great.
putting this together. Sorry, the circumstances we had to do it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
shout out to the two gentlemen, Chris and Trevor, was it?
Chris and Ted.
Chris and Ted.
Yes.
Ted's accent is thick,
I know. I
dude.
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
but thank
They're
you to them for coming on. Don Juan, I want to thank you for coming on. Oh wait, you didn't.
The wand. That's what we were
right
missing. We were missing the wisdom of the wand. But you know
Yeah,
what? We'll get that
on the
going.
time.
but
We'll get
thank you
that going.
guys.
All right. We'll see you later.